Welcome to Integrity Data. In this tutorial, we're going to be going over how to change an employee's pay period. Many of you won't need to do this, but there may be some that do need to change an employee's pay period from time to time. Now, the pay periods are configured for your company based on your needs. We see I've got two here. I have employees assigned to this pay period, which begins on this date and ends on this date. Then I have other employees that have a different pay period that start on this date and end on this date. This one's biweekly, this one's weekly. Now, there could be many reasons that you've got different pay periods in your system, and they don't necessarily have to be different dates. They could be the same exact dates, the same schedule. Maybe you want to separate your salary from your hourly employees. So you could create two pay periods, one for salary, one for hourly. That's going to enable you to group them when running reports, exports, and things like that into different groups based on the pay period that they happen to be in. Another reason is maybe you have temp employees. You want them to clock into your system. You want to be able to monitor their time to compare that with what you're being billed, but you don't want their time mixed with your regular company employees. So creating another pay period is a way to split types of people up, not only for reporting, but also for payroll purposes. Now, when you have multiple pay periods, it can become necessary from one time to another to change them, such as if a temp employee becomes permanent, or more so if you've got an hourly employee that becomes a salary employee. So we're going to go over here to our employees and hover our mouse over employee. That expands our options, and we've got employee PP reassign. I can then come down and choose from my employee that I'm going to be changing. And I can see that this employee is on biweekly. And these are my choices on which one I can change him to. Obviously, I only have one other option. Over here, I can determine when to change this employee. And either on next pay period or a predetermined pay period. These are a little quirky because this is a weekly, this is a bi-weekly. They don't necessarily start on the same. But I've got this information in here, the employee. I know what pay period they're on right now, which one I want to change them to, and when. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And now I've got an option to block or delete, basically. The only reason I can only block this one is because this pay period's already been blocked because it's been approved. I can't move these transactions anywhere because this pay period for him is approved. So the most I can do is block it by reassign. This is the next pay period that he's on currently. There's no transactions in it. My only option is either block or delete. I don't need this here. I can delete it. We're going to be creating these new pay periods up here. I don't want to have duplicate pay periods or overlapping pay periods when I go to my employee and click on their pay periods and start going down. I want to make it nice and neat. That's why I would delete this one. We're creating this one. So that's all we need to do. Now, because this is blocked, I couldn't show you what to do if they have transactions in a pay period that you're moving them to. So let's go back to our employee and employee pay period reassign. Let's find a different employee here. Pick on this one, come down here, and we'll just do that and click Next. And here we go. Again, this pay period's been approved. It's blocked. It has 16 transactions in it. Yes, I could go back into Edit Employee or Time Management, go to the employee, go to that pay period, unapprove it, and then come back here and do the same thing. But for the purposes of our discussion right here, I can show you what we would do with this one. You'll notice this one is longer. It's open, and he has transactions in this pay period. Basically, this is the old pay period, and what do we want to do with them? These are the new ones we're creating. So I've got options in here, but I do have punches. I could click this down. I could delete all those transactions and block this pay period so that nothing further could be added to it, but that would keep it inside the employees drop down for their pay periods. And if I'm going to delete them, I don't need to block it. I would just delete transactions and delete that pay period and move on in life with the new pay period. Our other option is to move the transactions and block. What does that mean? It means we're going to move these 13 transactions to these pay periods up here, a combination of all three, because this is the 30th to the 13th. The 30th is here, and the 13th is within this pay period. So by moving transactions, we would move all 13 and spread them out where they go in these pay periods, and then it would block this one. Again, I'm not a fan of blocking. I don't want an empty pay period that the employee wasn't supposed to be on in the first place in their drop down. So my option is going to be move transactions and delete this old pay period, delete the biweekly pay period. And this has transactions, it's blocked, I can't delete it. So the most I can do right now is just leave it on blocked. It is what it is right there as far as how these two pay periods coincide. So when I would click next, what's going to happen is all of these transactions are going to be spread out where they go into these three pay periods. It's also going to create this pay period, but bear in mind there's not going to be any transactions in that because this one's blocked. So you'll end up sitting with an empty pay period in there. I would really cancel, go back and start from the 24th rather than the 17th. And that way I don't have this empty pay period in there. So move the transactions and delete this one. So by clicking next, this pay period would be removed from their drop down. And I'll show you where that's at in just a second that I'm talking about. It would create these. It would send these punches over to these pay periods. So that's all there is to changing an employee pay period. You just have to remember these are the new ones that you're creating. These are the old ones. What do you want to do with them? And again, you don't typically need them. You don't want to see an empty pay period duplicating or overlapping with other pay periods in his drop down. 99% you're going to be moving and deleting. Move these 13 transactions to these pay periods and delete this 30th to the 13th. So what am I talking about having blocked pay periods or duplicates? That's going to be under my edits and time managements, but it would also appear in my reports. So I'm going to go to my edits and time management, click on the timesheet, and right here are my employees' pay periods. And we'll go over to Larry because he's got more pay periods than Christian does. But we see all these in here. I don't want duplicates in here. I don't want to have to click here, wait and see if anything shows up. It's empty. Why is it empty? Look back in here. Oh, there's another one that kind of overlaps. Click on it, see if it's in there. I don't want to be bothered doing that. You may have a reason that you need to do that with, but 99.9% you're not going to need that. So when you're changing the employee pay period, and that's employee PP reassign for employee pay period reassign. Again, choose your employee, choose the pay period, determine when you want that employee to be assigned to that pay period. Most times, if you're doing this early enough and you know what's happening, you're going to select start on the next pay period and move on with life. Otherwise, if you forgot to do it and it's after the fact, you got to come back here, select the pay period next. And there's no transactions in here, so I don't have the move transactions and delete. But I would just come through here. All of these are open. I would delete all of the old ones. Remember, these are the old ones we're moving them off of. These are the new ones that we're placing them onto. We don't need these. There's no transactions. I am comfortable in deleting all of these. Then I would just click next and go on from there. Now, the exception to this might be this one pay period right here. And the reason I say that is because this is from the 10th encompassing the 16th. So if I delete this one, there's going to be a gap. You know, the one down here is going to end on the 9th. The next one's going to begin on the 16th. So in this instance, because these two pay periods are different date ranges, and again, you're usually going to have the same date ranges. One's going to be biweekly, the other's going to be salary or temp or something like that. Although your temp pay periods could be weekly and your normal employees could be biweekly, semi-monthly, or whatever. So that could affect things. But in this instance, I would choose to block this one simply because I want continuity through the pay periods. Even though there would be an overlap, I would have one pay period and that drop down from the 10th to the 16th. And then the one above that's going to be the 16th to the 29th. So they would have that 1 day overlap, but semantics, it just depends on what you want to see, what you can live with, and how you want things adjusted. But that concludes changing employees' pay periods through the employee PP reassign. Thank you for watching.